Plaintiff Dewey Patterson says he was married to the defendant 2 times, and during their second marriage, they both started abusing painkillers. Dewey suspects the defendant's drug problem was even worse than his because she would disappear for months at a time, and he's suing her today for unpaid taxes. Defendant Deborah Patterson says she loved Dewey dearly and still loves him to this day, despite the fact that their first marriage was riddled with abuse. Deborah claims Dewey beat her, left her in a ditch, and put a gun down her throat, and she's countersuing for emotional distress.
Start with you.
Your Honor, I was married to the defendant twice, one time from 79 to 82, and I was married the second time, 2004 until 2011.
How did that occur? Tell me what happened the first time.
The first time, I had to do a lot of traveling in the trade that I worked in, and she didn't like traveling, so I took her back home to Georgia, and within a year or two, she met somebody else and married them and sent me divorce papers. She got divorced, that marriage didn't work out, and then back in 2004, she got in touch with me through some mutual friends, and wasn't 3 months later, we were married again. And it was good for the first 3 or 4 years. Then it started going downhill after the economy went bad, and we were abusing pain medication. And about the 6th year we were married, she had just come up gone, be gone for 2 or 3 months at a time. And then she'd come back, begging me to let her back. After I'd let her come back, well, she'd do it again, she'd disappear. So back in 2010, I filed for a divorce. About a month later, she showed back up, begging me to let her come back. I let her come back, called my lawyer and had it postponed. That was money I lost. And then about another year later, in 2011, she took off again in my brand new Jeep. And so I had 3 repo men trying to get it back. And she called me and asked me about coming back. I told her she could come back, but this time we're getting a divorce because I'm going through it with it this time. So she did come back, we got a divorce, and she left.
And I heard you mention that the economy collapsed and you lost your job at that time?
Yes, sir.
And that's pretty much when you turned to drugs?
Yes, sir.
All right. The reason I point that out is because people try and minimize that. The loss of economic opportunity or economic distress as reasons that people split up or that the men in particular turn to drugs. A lot of pressure not having a job, not being able to support your family or your kids. So many of them turn to drugs and then they leave their family. Just want to make sure that folks understand that that is very much a part of economic distress, is that you turn to drugs to ease the pain. Then you leave your household because of your drug addiction and all the other things that come right along with economic distress throughout every race, culture, and community. I think you're getting my point.
And it was good for the first 3 or 4 years. Then it started going downhill after the economy went bad. And we were abusing pain medication. And she had just come up gone, be gone for 2 or 3 months at a time.
Plaintiff Dewey Patterson was married to the defendant 2 times, and she claims during their first marriage, Dewey was so abusive that he beat her, left her in a ditch, and threatened her with a gun.
Go ahead, let me hear from you.
First of all, I love this man dearly. I still love him, and I loved him when I married him. I wouldn't have married him the second time. The first time we were very young, and I loved him, but there was alcohol, disco dancing, and he took me far away from my family, and I was very young. I had a young daughter too. He was an iron worker, but I went with him. He was my husband. And I depended on him because that's all I knew. I was young. But after he started the alcohol, me drinking, him drinking, his alcoholism made him angry, and I left with machete marks all over a vehicle. And I had a little girl, so I left from Florida. He didn't carry me back to Georgia. I drove. I drove back home. 2 years went by. I had the money. I sent him divorce papers. I was married 20 years after I came home, and we divorced. And when I married Dewey the second time, I was so happy. I was the most happiest woman on the face of the earth. 6 months, we were into it 6 months. He was a great husband. He provided. I really thought that maturity, and we had grown. And after that, I started seeing signs of a need from alcoholism to needing other things to cover those addictions. He had 13 DUIs, he told me, while we were apart. A warrant in Georgia still existing that that's why we had to purchase a home in Alabama. He couldn't go to Georgia because of alcohol. Well, we worked hard, but we still stayed together because I have a conscience, and I really believe that marriage vows you work on together, no matter if it's bad or indifferent. And the demeanor started changing. It was back to the way it was in the first marriage. In our first marriage, there was a lot of abuse. He had a gun he put down my throat, loaded. He beat me with the butts of the guns, left me in a ditch. That was the first marriage. The second marriage, I thought, he came to me when we started dating. We dated 2 or 3 times, and he just had a need there of he loved me so much and missed me and has changed that I wanted to go back to him. I loved him. I've always loved him. And I went in with a pleasing, and I tried to please him, and he wanted and he wanted and wanted, and he wanted other women in the bed. He had needs that I had never, and my morals would not ever let me do, and I never did. He busted my mouth the second marriage.
That's a lie.
With the door. The abuse and control and manipulation was there, and it got stronger and stronger. Where his wants were there. If I didn't give, he disrespected.
And what do you say to the allegation he makes that, one, you ran off with a man and that's what caused the first divorce, and two, that it's your drug addiction that caused you to disappear for months at a time, and that you all were both addicted to drugs?
Yes, sir. Let me answer the first question. I did not run off with another man. I met the other man after I had left him in Florida.
All right.
There was a time in between there, probably a year before I met this other man. I married to him 20 years in.
All right. So what about the other allegations?
After we were married, that first year, Dewey was drinking. He even was drinking White Lightning.
We're talking about you.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. He introduced me to pills. He said, take this. And I said, no, I've never took anything. If I do, I might like it because I've had an addiction problem myself with alcohol. I gave it up, and when I did, I never went back to it.
Okay, so you all both have your stories. Your taxes, why are you suing her for the taxes?
Yes, sir. When we got divorced, and actually the divorce was final April the 10th, 2010. In the divorce papers, it said that both of us was equally responsible for the debt owed to the IRS and to the state for the year.
You have the divorce decree?
Yes, sir.
Is that what it said, ma'am? Both are equally responsible?
Yes, sir. But Judge Mathis, can I say something about the divorce?
Sure.
At that time, he filed that divorce 3 months after I filed for my Social Security disability. I didn't know he was going to file for the divorce. I didn't have the money to fight him in court, and I was pressured from him that I had to sign that divorce. If I didn't, I would suffer consequences.
What consequences?
That he would go on and pursue me until those divorce papers were signed.
Pursue you how?
Or I would not have a lawyer, and I'd have to appear in court without a lawyer.
Pursue you how?
He pursued me with threats that he would sue me, that he would make it happen. He would make those signatures happen because he's good at what he does.
So the reason you signed your divorce is because he told you one day he would make you sign it anyway.
Oh,
So
yes, sir.
Instead of waiting to that one day, you just said, well, let's just cut that time out and I'll just sign it now. All right. I see it does say half. What you're saying, she hasn't paid her portion? Is that what you're saying?
She did.
Let me have that. Pardon
She
me?
did make 4 payments. She made a $30 payment 3 times.
How much in total, sir?
110.
Have you paid more than $110, ma'am?
No, sir.
All right.
In our first marriage, there was a lot of abuse. He had a gun he put down my throat, loaded. He beat me with the butts of the guns, left me in a ditch.
Plaintiff Dewey Patterson was married to the defendant 2 times. And she claims during their first marriage, Dewey was so abusive that he beat her, left her in a ditch, and threatened her with a gun.
Your counterclaim for $1,000 is for what, ma'am?
It is for the emotional process of how he handled everything from signing the divorce. He filed 2 other divorces during the second marriage on me too. Whenever he couldn't have his way or wanted half of the money or whatever, he would file a divorce on me. He said I'd get it one way or another.
The things we're talking about sounds like you had a bad marriage and a bad divorce. Sorry to hear that, but you were ordered to pay and you haven't, and so I'm going to have to grant his judgment. Have a good day.
Thank you.
If it's true, I don't think she'd have married me the second time. You know, I mean, she just made that up. And I believe if I'd have been that bad, she'd have took a warrant out on me. But there wasn't no police report or nothing, so it wasn't true.
I did take a PFI on him, and there was a restraining order on him. And but you reap what you sow, so you know I'm okay with this. It's done.